Cooking inside Pelican Bay, the Supermax secret no one talks about. Chapter 1. The steam rose fast, too fast for a prison cell sealed in concrete. Marcus held his breath as the smell of burning plastic filled the tiny room. He wasn't supposed to be doing this. No one was. Yet there he was inside Pelican Bay's SHU, standing over a homemade stove, built from a broken metal food tray, toothpaste glue, and two stripped electrical wires pulled from an old radio. And on top of it, a small pouch wrapped in foil, sizzling. This was the moment everyone feared, the moment the smell reached the hallway. A guard's footsteps stopped right outside his door. Marcus froze. The sizzling got louder. The smell got stronger. And then, click, the food slot slowly opened. "Is somebody cooking in here?" the guard said. The homemade stove sparked. The pouch shook. And Marcus knew, if this thing blew or the guard stepped in, everything would change. Cut. But before we get to what happened next, let's go back to how this all started. It began 3 weeks earlier, long before Marcus ever imagined risking his life to cook a single hidden meal. Back then things were calm. As calm as Pelican Bay Supermax could ever be. He sat alone in his concrete cell 23 hours a day eating cold, hard meals he could barely chew. Meat rock solid. Beans half raw. Bread like it was baked 3 days ago. Every day was the same. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. No flavor. No heat. No life. But the moment everything changed was the day a new inmate was moved into the tier. A guy named Lorenzo. Everyone whispered about him. Not because he was dangerous, but because he knew how to cook in prison better than anyone. He called it cell magic. And he said if someone could get boiling water, foil, and a little seasoning, he could turn prison scraps into something that actually tasted real. Marcus didn't believe him, until he smelled it. A warm, garlicky scent drifted through the vents one night. It wasn't prison food. It wasn't commissary ramen. It smelled like something you'd get in a real kitchen. Something homemade. Something dangerous. It was the first time in years Marcus felt hungry in a good way. He wanted to learn. But learning wasn't easy. In Pelican Bay, cooking was more dangerous than fighting. One wrong spark could cut power to the whole tier. One smell could trigger a full search. One mistake could land you in deeper trouble than you could ever imagine. Still, Marcus asked Lorenzo to teach him. And Lorenzo said yes. Only problem? They needed heat. Real heat. And there was only one way to get it. They had to build a makeshift stove using parts the prison considered impossible to get. This was the beginning of Marcus's journey, the beginning of the plan that would soon put the entire tier at risk. The plan that led to the moment the guard opened his slot. And their first step was simple but dangerous. They had to steal an old radio from a cell that wasn't empty, and definitely wasn't friendly. That's when everything took a sharp turn. Because the moment Marcus tried to grab that radio, he heard footsteps coming straight toward him. Heavy, fast, angry. And someone grabbed his shoulder from behind. Marcus spun around so fast he almost dropped the radio. Behind him stood Dre, one of the most feared guys on the tier. Big, silent. The kind of inmate who didn't need to make threats, because everyone already knew what he could do. Dre looked at the radio in Marcus's hands. No anger. No yelling. Just that cold stare. "You taking my stuff?" Dre asked quietly. Marcus's heart dropped. He wasn't trying to steal, he just needed the wires inside. But in Pelican Bay, intentions didn't matter. Possession did. And right now he was holding something that belonged to the wrong man. For a moment Marcus didn't speak. His mouth was dry. His hands were shaking. He forced out the words, "It's not like that. I need the inside of it." Dre raised an eyebrow. For what? Marcus hesitated. Should he say it? Should he tell him he was trying to cook inside Pelican Bay, one of the most controlled prisons in America? Something so risky it could bring punishment on the whole tier? He swallowed hard. "Food," Marcus whispered. "Real food." Dre stared at him for 3 long seconds, then burst out laughing. The kind of laugh that filled the whole hallway. "Man, you trying to be a chef in Pelican Bay?" he said. Marcus didn't answer. He wasn't joking. Dre stepped closer, too close, then took the radio from Marcus's hand. Marcus braced himself for the hit, for the punch everyone expected from Dre. But instead, Dre flipped the radio over, snapped off the back panel, and dropped 2 stripped wires into Marcus's hand. "You're gonna need these," Dre said. "And next time, just ask." Marcus blinked. Dre walked back into his cell like nothing happened. That was the low point, fear so deep he felt it in his bones. But the next high came fast. Because the moment Marcus returned to Lorenzo's cell door with the wires, Lorenzo grinned. "Now we're in business." They began assembling the stove piece by piece. A folded metal tray for the platform. Toothpaste as glue. A rolled-up magazine to hide everything under. Lorenzo explained how to connect the wires so the current would heat the metal instead of shocking them. Done right, you get heat, Lorenzo said. Done wrong, you get fire. They worked in total silence. Then came the moment of truth. Lorenzo tapped the wires together. A spark jumped. The tray glowed slightly. They had heat. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. And the more he learned, the more excited he got. They could actually cook, inside Pelican Bay. Inside the SHU. Inside a place where even breathing wrong could get you punished. But hope turned to fear again when Lorenzo handed Marcus a small foil-wrapped package and whispered, "You'll cook this alone tonight. It's your final test. If you can do it without getting caught, then we can make something big." Marcus nodded slowly, but he didn't know the test was about to put him in a life-or-death situation. Because when he got back to his cell, he heard guards arguing at the end of the hallway. A search team was coming. They were doing surprise cell checks. And Marcus had less than 1 minute to hide the wires, build the stove, and start the test, before the guards reached his door. He started moving fast. But then, the lights flickered. The hallway went quiet. And a guard shouted, "Tier check. Open the first door." Marcus's cell was next. Marcus's heartbeat thundered in his ears as the guards started moving down the tier door by door. He had seconds, maybe less. The foil pack Lorenzo gave him sat on the bunk. The stripped wires were still in his hand. And the metal tray he needed for the stove was lying out in the open. If the guards walked in now, none of this would look innocent. He shoved the wires under his mattress. He stuffed the metal tray behind the toilet. And he slipped the foil packet inside his sock. Bang. A heavy cell door slammed open 2 cells away. The guards were moving fast. Marcus wiped the sweat from his hands and sat on the edge of the bunk, trying to look calm. But his hands kept shaking. His breathing kept speeding up. And the hallway kept getting quieter with each door they opened, because everyone knew this wasn't a regular check. It was a deep search. That meant they were looking for something. Maybe contraband. Maybe weapons. Or maybe they were going cell to cell because someone reported a smell. The same smell Marcus and Lorenzo had been creating at night. Marcus forced himself to look straight ahead. He kept his head down. He tried to steady his breathing. "Next cell," one of the guards yelled. They were now 1 door away. Then, Dre's voice echoed from the cell behind Marcus. "Hey CO. That noise last night, you checked the top tier yet?" The guards paused. "What noise?" "I heard something like someone messing with the vents," Dre said. "Thought it was maintenance." The guards exchanged looks. One of them turned around. "Let's clear the top tier first. Something might be wrong with the ventilation." Marcus felt his chest loosen, but only a little. Dre's distraction didn't stop the search, it only bought time. Seconds. Minutes maybe. But not much more. As the guards moved away, Marcus took the foil pack from his sock. Lorenzo had told him this was the test: cooking alone, keeping calm, staying quiet, not getting caught. It sounded simple until Marcus realized the timing couldn't have been worse. But he also knew, if he didn't do it now, he might never get another chance. He rebuilt the stove carefully, faster this time, almost without thinking. The toothpaste glue held the tray in place. The wires twisted perfectly. He checked everything twice. Then he placed the foil pack on top. It was time. He touched the wires together. The spark jumped. The tray heated. The foil started to move. A thick smell filled the cell. Meaty, spicy, smoky. Good. Too good. Marcus fanned it with his blanket, but it was no use. The heat made the smell stronger. It crawled under the door and into the hall. Then, footsteps. Fast. Getting closer. Marcus's heart dropped. He shoved his blanket into the door crack, but the smell kept pushing through. He grabbed the foil to hide it but burned his fingertips. He dropped it by mistake and it slid toward the front of the cell. More footsteps. A guard shouted something. Someone said, "Wait, what's that smell?" Marcus lunged for the foil. And just as he grabbed it, the entire stove sparked violently. The tray glowed red. And the smell exploded out of the cell like a signal flare. The guard stopped. Silence. Then one voice cut through everything. "Who is cooking on this tier?" The footsteps turned around. They were running back. Straight toward Marcus's cell. And as they got closer, the homemade stove hissed. Then popped, sending a flash of smoke toward the cell door. The guards were now 3 steps away. The smoke floated straight toward the door, rising in thin gray twists that looked impossible to hide. Marcus grabbed his blanket and started waving it, pushing the smoke upward, trying anything, to keep it from drifting into the hall. But it was too late. Boots thundered closer. Keys rattled. Someone slammed a baton against a door. Find the source of that smell. Now. Marcus crushed the foil shut, shoved it under his mattress and kicked the stove behind the toilet. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the wires. He slid them under the bunk and forced himself to sit down. But the smoke refused to disappear. It clung to the air. Heavy. Warm. Suspicious. Voices came from just outside his door now. I'm telling you it's this tier. No, this direction. Smell's getting stronger. Marcus's heart hammered so loudly he thought the guards could hear it. Then something strange happened. The air vent above him rattled. And suddenly, a new smell poured into the tier. A strong one. A terrible one. Like burnt socks mixed with melted plastic. The guards froze. What the? That's coming from the other end. Move. Move. They turned around and sprinted toward the opposite side of the tier. Marcus blinked. That smell wasn't his. It wasn't even close to what he was cooking. He knew instantly who caused it. Dre. Somehow, someway Dre had burned something in his own cell, on purpose, to draw the guards away. He didn't see it, but he knew. Only Dre had the guts to create a fake crisis to protect someone. The hallway filled with shouting. Check that cell. Get the extinguisher. Open it, now. Marcus didn't move. He didn't even breathe. He listened as Dre took the blame for a fire that didn't exist. One guard shouted, "Why does it smell like rubber in here?" Another snapped, "This fool tried to melt something." Marcus couldn't see Dre's face, but he imagined that same calm expression. The same cold stare he gave Marcus before helping him with the radio. Dre didn't do favors often. But when he did, he expected respect, not repayment. That was the low moment. Fear for Dre, guilt for letting someone else take the heat, knowing he owed a debt in a place where debts were dangerous. But then came the next extreme twist. Because just when Marcus thought he was safe, the toilet behind him sparked. He turned slowly. A blue flash flickered behind it. The wires, the ones he'd hidden, they were touching the metal pipe. And suddenly, PZD, a sharp zap burst out. Lights flickered across the whole tier. Hey, what was that? A guard shouted. The entire hallway went silent. Another guard yelled, "Check the middle cells." Something just hit the electrical line. Marcus's stomach twisted. They were coming back. Not because of smell. Not because of burning food. Because of a short circuit caused by him. And this time they were checking every cell. Marcus lunged to separate the wires, but he slipped. The mattress moved. The foil popped out from under it and slid right to the center of the floor. Boots marched back toward him. Faster. Angrier. Determined. He dove to grab the foil. But the footsteps stopped right outside his door. Keys jingled. A guard's voice said, "Open this one. Something's going on in here." And the lock started to turn. The lock slid open with a slow, heavy clack, the kind that makes every inmate on the tier freeze. Marcus stood in the middle of his cell, blanket in his hand, heart pounding so hard he thought it might shake the walls. He kicked the foil packet under the bunk with the side of his foot, hoping the guards wouldn't notice. The homemade stove was still behind the toilet, hidden but not perfectly. And the wires were the worst part. If they found those, they wouldn't just question him, they'd charge him. The door cracked open. 2 guards stepped inside. One tall and angry. One short and suspicious. The tall guard scanned the cell. "You smell anything in here?" The short guard sniffed the air. "Still smells like burnt something." Marcus kept his eyes on the ground, trying not to look guilty even though guilt was practically dripping off of him. The tall guard stepped forward. "What happened a minute ago?" The lights flickered. "Your cell is right in the middle of that." Marcus swallowed. "I don't know, sir. I was just sitting here." The short guard narrowed his eyes. "Move away from the bunk." Marcus did. The guard crouched down. He lifted the mattress. Marcus's heart nearly stopped. Nothing. The foil hadn't rolled back under far enough for him to see it. But then the guard shifted his angle. And the edge of the shiny foil glinted in the corner of his vision. He froze. "What's that?" he asked. Marcus's breath got stuck in his throat. His palms went cold. His legs felt like they were made of soap. He knew if the guard picked it up, the story was over. No cooking, no plan, no second chance. Before the guard could reach for it, something unexpected happened. Bang, bang, bang. 3 loud hits on a metal door down the tier. "Co. We got a flood in here." The guard spun around. Another voice shouted, "It's coming out into the hall." Water splashed into the walkway. Loud. Fast. It was another distraction. Another delay. Another miracle. The tall guard cursed. "Man, not today. Okay, wrap this up. We gotta move." The short guard hesitated, still staring at Marcus's bunk. "Hey," the tall guard snapped. "Let's go." Reluctantly, the short guard dropped the mattress. He didn't grab the foil. He didn't check the toilet. He didn't look at the wires. They both rushed out of the cell. The door slammed shut behind them. Marcus finally exhaled. His whole body shook with relief, but also confusion. The flood. The perfect timing. The noise. The distraction. This wasn't luck. Someone else on the tier was helping him, and he had no idea why. He grabbed the foil, shoved it into the vent, and pressed his ear to the door. The guards were still yelling about the water. He didn't know which inmate caused the chaos, but he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't about food anymore. Someone else cared about this cooking operation. Maybe for reasons he didn't understand yet. And as he lay back on his bunk, listening to more chaos erupt outside, Marcus realized something chilling. He wasn't just learning how to cook in Pelican Bay. He had stepped into something bigger. Something hidden. Something dangerous. Something that would soon pull him into a world inside the prison most inmates never saw. But the real shock came an hour later, when a folded piece of paper slid under his door. He grabbed it fast and opened it. Just 4 words were written inside. "Meet me at Count." And the signature? It wasn't Dre's. It wasn't Lorenzo's. It was someone Marcus never expected. Someone known on the tier for one thing: running secret operations inside Pelican Bay. The real trouble was just beginning. Count time in Pelican Bay wasn't quiet, it was dead silent. Every inmate stood still. Every guard stared hard. And every sound echoed like it came from inside your own skull. Marcus stood at the front of his cell, hands by his sides, eyes forward, but his mind was racing. That note. Those 4 words. "Meet me at Count." But who wrote it? When the guards reached his cell, Marcus stepped forward like everyone else. The officer glanced at him, checked his ID tag, nodded, and moved on. Nothing unusual. Nothing special. Then from the cell across the tier, a voice whispered, "Yo, Marcus." He didn't move. Didn't look. Didn't react. Movement during count could trigger a disciplinary write-up fast. The voice continued, quieter this time. "Look down." Marcus slowly lowered his gaze, just enough to see under the bars across from him. A hand stuck out. A folded paper. A wrist with a tattoo he recognized instantly. It was Ghost. The one inmate everyone feared because no one ever heard him coming. The one inmate who never talked unless he wanted something. The one inmate rumored to run quiet operations across the whole SHU, hoarding supplies, trading contraband, controlling favors without raising his voice. Ghost didn't cook. Ghost didn't eat extra meals. Ghost didn't even talk to people. So why him? Marcus kept staring ahead, but Ghost whispered again. "You failed the test." Marcus's throat tightened. Ghost slid something across the floor, so quietly even the guards didn't hear it. A small object wrapped in cloth. Marcus used his foot to pull it closer. Then Ghost said, "Lorenzo ain't who you think he is, kid." Marcus froze. Ghost continued softly, "And you think Dre helped you for free? Nobody helps for free. Not in here." Marcus swallowed hard. "What do you want?" Ghost whispered, "I want a chef." Marcus blinked. "A chef?" Ghost added, "You think you're the only one trying to cook in here? Nah. You're part of something now. Whether you like it or not." Marcus didn't understand. He whispered back, "Why me?" Ghost chuckled under his breath, a low, dangerous sound. "Because you didn't panic. Because you kept cooking. Because you followed through even with the whole tier about to get searched. You showed discipline. That's the one thing this place respects." Marcus tried to keep calm, but his mind was spinning. Ghost leaned forward. "You're going to make something for me? Something specific. Something important." Marcus whispered, "What?" Ghost said 2 words. "Count night stew." Marcus frowned. "What's that?" But Ghost didn't explain. Because just then a guard shouted, "Count clear. Everybody back." Marcus stepped away as Ghost vanished into the dark like smoke. Back in his cell, Marcus unwrapped the cloth Ghost gave him. Inside was something rare. Something valuable. Something no one in Supermax was supposed to have. A packet of real seasoning, the kind used in outside kitchens. Something that could make any prison meal taste like actual food. Marcus stared at it. This wasn't a gift. It was a command. He looked up at the wall, toward Ghost's cell, and for the first time he realized. This cooking mission wasn't about survival anymore. It was about power. About influence. About feeding the right people at the right time. Ghost wanted something cooked on count night, and count night was in less than 24 hours. But the real danger came a few minutes later, when another folded paper slid under his door. He opened it slowly. This one had only 3 words. Don't trust Ghost. And the signature at the bottom made Marcus's blood run cold. It was signed by Lorenzo. 2 powerful inmates. 2 different messages. And Marcus? He was caught in the middle. And both men expected him to cook. But only one of them planned to keep him alive afterward. Marcus stared at the 2 notes laid out on his bunk. One said, "Don't trust Ghost." The other was Ghost's silent command. 2 voices. 2 warnings. 2 different paths. And in Pelican Bay, choosing the wrong side didn't just get you in trouble. It could get you buried in problems that never ended. Marcus folded both notes and hid them inside the seam of his mattress. He knew one thing for sure. He couldn't ignore either man. Not Ghost. Not Lorenzo. Both had influence. Both had people listening. Both could make Marcus's life easier, or impossible. But the first move had to be his. He sat down and took a breath. Think. Be calm. Survive. Just then a soft knock hit his cell door. Tap, tap, tap. Marcus recognized that rhythm. It was Lorenzo. "Yo," Lorenzo whispered. "You got the note?" Marcus whispered back. "Yeah. Why shouldn't I trust him?" Lorenzo didn't hesitate. "Ghost don't do favors. He does business. Once you cook for him, you're in his circle. And once you're in his circle, you don't get out." Marcus closed his eyes, frustrated. "Then why did he pick me?" Lorenzo sighed. "Because you're good, man. Because you kept calm during the search. Because Dre covered for you. Ghost watches everything." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay then, what do I do?" Lorenzo hesitated. "Make the stew," he finally said. "But make my version of it, not his." Marcus frowned. "What's the difference?" Lorenzo whispered, "My recipe is safer. It don't explode with smell. It don't send smoke through the vents. It won't get you caught." Marcus whispered, "Then why wouldn't Ghost want that?" Lorenzo's voice dropped low. "Because Ghost wants a show." Marcus froze. "A show?" "Yeah. He wants the smell to travel. He wants certain people on this tier to know he gotta cook now. Power move. Quiet message." Lorenzo paused. "But it puts you at risk." Marcus felt his stomach twist. "So what do you want me to do?" he asked. Lorenzo slid something under the door, a tiny packet. Homemade. Wrapped in tissue. "This is my mix," he whispered. "Use this instead of what Ghost gave you. Trust me." Marcus picked up the little packet. It smelled different. Softer. Not as strong. Much safer. He tucked it away just as Lorenzo whispered. "And one more thing. Ghost ain't the only one watching you now." Marcus lifted his head. "What do you mean?" Lorenzo said. "Someone else on this tier is planning something for count night too. That's why Ghost needs the stew. Not for food, but for timing." Marcus's heart dropped. "Timing for what?" Lorenzo answered with a sentence that froze the air around Marcus. "Ghost is using your cooking as a signal. A signal. Not a meal. Not a favor. Not a test. A signal." But before Marcus could ask another question, a loud shout echoed down the tier. "Mail call. Stand by your doors." Lorenzo whispered, "We talk later, be careful," and moved away. Marcus took a breath and stepped up to his own door as the officer made his way down the line, handing out letters. But when the guard stopped at Marcus's cell, he didn't hand him a letter. He pushed a sealed envelope through the slot instead. Something thick inside. Something heavier than paper. The guard didn't say a word. He just moved on. Marcus opened it slowly. Inside was a single note. And a metal item wrapped in tape. The note said, "If you choose Ghost, use this." Marcus peeled the tape back slightly. And his breath caught. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't contraband. It was a piece of a vent panel key, the kind only inmates with real power ever got access to. Marcus stared at it, frozen. Because this wasn't a message anymore. It was a threat. A test. A warning. And one thing was now painfully clear. Ghost wanted Marcus for something much bigger than cooking. And Lorenzo was trying to pull him out before it was too late. But Marcus didn't know the most dangerous part yet. Because at the exact same moment, Ghost was watching him from the dark, a faint smile on his face. As if everything was going exactly the way he planned. Marcus stared at the half-vent key in his hand, feeling the weight of it in a way that had nothing to do with metal. This wasn't a tool. This wasn't a gift. This was a message. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not. He wrapped it back in the tape and tucked it deep into the corner of his mattress seam. He couldn't be seen with it, not even by accident. In Pelican Bay, being found with something like that could get him dragged out of the cell immediately. He sat on his bunk thinking. Ghost wanted the stew to send a signal. Lorenzo wanted him to avoid the smell, avoid attention, avoid Ghost's trap. And someone else, someone he hadn't even identified, was preparing something for Count Night 2. 3 sides. 1 cook. No safe route. Marcus inhaled deeply and told himself to stay calm. Step by step, he thought. 1 problem at a time. But Pelican Bay didn't believe in slow problems. Because a second later, tap, tap, tap. That same 3-beat knock hit his door again. But this time, it wasn't Lorenzo. And it wasn't Ghost. Marcus stepped closer. A whisper slid through the slot. Yo, you got a minute? Marcus froze. That voice didn't belong to anyone from his tier. It was coming from the next tier over, someone using the drain pipes to talk through the walls. Who is this? Marcus whispered. The voice said, someone who knows what Ghost is planning. Someone who ain't gonna let him use you. Marcus stiffened. Another person? Another warning? What do you want? Marcus asked quietly. The voice answered, to tell you the truth. Marcus's chest tightened. He didn't know if this was another trap, another manipulation, or another inmate trying to pull him in a different direction. But before he could say anything, the voice continued. You think Ghost just wants stew? A smell? A signal? Nah. Ghost needs timing. Exact timing. He needs the smell to spread at the same second he moves something through the vents. Marcus blinked. The vents? Yeah, the voice whispered. That's what that vent key piece is for. He ain't giving you that for decoration. He's using you to trigger a distraction. Marcus leaned closer. A distraction from what? The voice responded slowly. From a pass. Marcus frowned. A pass. You know what I mean, the voice said. People in here move things, secret things, through the vents. Trading. Deals. Messages. But the only way to do it without the guards noticing is during a moment where everyone is focused somewhere else. Marcus swallowed. So, the stew smell would distract the guards? Not just the guards, the voice whispered. Everybody. It'll shift attention down the tier. That's when Ghost makes his move. And what does that have to do with me? Marcus asked, though he already feared the answer. You're the trigger, the voice said. Ghost needs your cooking to kick off the whole plan. Marcus felt a chill in his spine. So if I cook, I'm helping Ghost. If you cook his way, yeah, the voice said. Not if you cook Lorenzo's way. Marcus closed his eyes. So Lorenzo wasn't trying to sabotage him. He was trying to protect him. But the voice wasn't finished. Ghost ain't dumb, the voice whispered. If he smells that you used Lorenzo's mix instead of his, he'll know. He'll know you didn't follow instructions. And Ghosts don't like disobedience. Marcus's heart pounded. So no matter what I do, I'm in danger. You're in Pelican Bay, the voice said softly. Everybody here is in danger. Marcus took a slow breath. Why are you helping me? He asked. The voice laughed lightly. You'll find out soon enough. But right now all you need to know is this. Marcus leaned in. Ghost ain't the one you should be worrying about tonight. Marcus stiffened. Then who? The voice answered with a name that made Marcus's stomach drop. The Warden. Marcus's eyes widened. But the voice wasn't done. You think Ghost planned all this alone? You think Lorenzo just happened to show up on your tier? You think Dre helped you for nothing? The voice paused. There are bigger hands moving pieces. And Count Night, that's the night they collide. Marcus whispered, what collide? The voice said, Ghost's pass. Lorenzo's protection. And the Warden's sweep. Marcus felt the room spinning. What sweep? He whispered. The voice lowered even more. The Warden ordered a secret search on this tier. Tonight. During count. Marcus froze. Why? There was silence. Long, heavy silence. Before the voice finally answered. Because someone told him there's a cook on the tier. Marcus's blood went cold. And he thinks it's you. Before Marcus could respond. Before he could ask who told the Warden or why. A siren blared across the prison. Wham! A guard shouted. All inmates on your bunks. Unannounced tier sweep. Marcus's heart stopped. Tonight wasn't about stew anymore. It was about survival. And the guards were already marching toward his cell. The siren scream shook the walls, vibrating through the concrete like an earthquake. Marcus jumped onto his bunk immediately, Because in Pelican Bay when the alarm hits you move fast or you get pulled down hard. Boots hammered across the tier. Shields slammed against bars. Keys rattled like metal thunder. This wasn't a normal sweep. This was a full tactical search. The kind they do when they believe something serious, dangerous, is happening. Marcus sat perfectly still, heart racing, hands flat on his knees, eyes locked on the opposite wall. He didn't dare look at the vent. Didn't dare look at the mattress seam where the half-key and seasoning packets were hidden. Didn't dare look at the toilet where the stove parts were tucked. Section A ready. Section B hold. Team 2 move. The guards were splitting into groups. Efficient. Fast. Violent if needed. Marcus swallowed. The voice in the drain said the warden ordered this sweep. Tonight. Because someone told him there was a cook on the tier. Marcus wasn't stupid. Only a few people knew about what he was doing. Lorenzo. Dre. Ghost. And now, whoever that mystery voice was. Someone snitched. Someone intentionally pointed the warden right at Marcus's cell. But who? And why? Boots stomped closer. Check every mattress. Check every toilet pipe. Check every vent panel. Marcus's stomach twisted. They were naming the exact places he had hidden everything. This wasn't random. This search was targeted. Someone wanted the guards to find the stove. Someone wanted Marcus exposed. The question wasn't if the guards would find something. The question was how fast. 3 guards stopped at his door. One held a taser. One had gloves. The third had a clipboard. Cell 14, open it up, the lead guard yelled. Marcus braced himself. But suddenly, a massive crash echoed from the far end of the tier, like metal hitting concrete. The guard spun around. What was that? Check it. Move. 2 of the guards sprinted toward the sound. The lead guard stayed behind, cursing under his breath while reaching for his radio. Marcus leaned slightly to the side to see through the cell window. At the far end of the tier, water was pouring out of Dre's cell again, this time even worse than before. Sheets were stuffed under the door, water flooding out into the walkway like a broken pipe. Dre stood inside, yelling like he'd lost control of something. It wasn't an accident. It was another stall. Another distraction. Another lifeline. The lead guard shouted into his radio. We got a major leak. Possible plumbing failure. I need backup. Marcus felt relief for a moment. But only a moment. Because while the guards rushed down the tier, something slid quietly under Marcus's door. A small piece of paper. Marcus's heart skipped. He opened it with shaking hands. 5 words. They're coming back for you. No signature. No handwriting he recognized. He read it again. And again. Then he heard something that froze his blood cold. A quiet, slow, tap 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 on his vent. Not the drain this time. Not a whisper from across the tier. Not Lorenzo. This was coming from inside the ventilation shaft. Marcus leaned in closer. A voice whispered through the vent. So soft, so close, it felt like the person was right behind the wall. Chef, listen carefully. Marcus swallowed hard. His heart pounded. He didn't know who this voice was, but he couldn't ignore it now. The voice said, Ghost knows the warden is coming. Lorenzo knows too. But what they didn't tell you is that this sweep isn't about your stove. Marcus's eyes widened. Then what is it about? He whispered. The voice answered slowly. It's about what Ghost hid in your cell. Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. What? He whispered. Check. The voice said urgently. Middle vent panel. Fast. Marcus jumped down from the bunk and pressed his ear to the vent. He reached his hand into the narrow gap where the screws were loose. His fingers brushed something. Something metal. Something small. Something he had definitely not put there. He pulled it out. A tiny, folded razor blade wrapped in tape. His heart dropped. He didn't cook with blades. He didn't hide them. He didn't even know it was there. Someone planted it. Deliberately. Quietly. And if the guards found it? Marcus whispered into the vent. Why would Ghost hide this in my cell? The voice whispered back. Ghost didn't. Marcus's blood ran cold. Then who did? He whispered. Silence. Heavy silence. Then the voice answered with a name Marcus never expected. The warden's informant. Someone who wants you taken out of the picture. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Who is it? He whispered. The voice said. You already know him. Marcus's eyes went wide. Another siren blasted. Sweep team returned to cell 14. The guards were coming back. Fast. Marcus held the razor blade in his hand, panic rising like fire. And that's when the voice in the vent whispered. Hide it, or you're done. The boots were already at his door. Marcus's fingers tightened around the taped razor blade. His pulse slammed against his ribs. The guards were nearly at his door again, boots pounding, keys clattering, radios crackling. He had seconds. Not minutes. Not time to think. Only time to react. Hide it, or you're done, the voice repeated urgently through the vent. Marcus scanned the cell for a spot the guards wouldn't check. Not the mattress, they already said they'd check it. Not the toilet, they were checking pipes next. Not the vent, it was the center of the sweep. His eyes stopped on one place. The underside of his metal bunk frame. A tiny lip underneath the steel. He moved fast. He wrapped the taped razor around a wad of toothpaste glue, Pelican Bay's universal adhesive, and slapped it under the bunk frame's inner corner. Press. Hold. Pray. Bang. His door flew open. Cell 14, hands visible. Step back, a guard barked. Marcus backed up, keeping his hands up. 3 guards entered this time, gloves, flashlights, clipboards, tools. They weren't just looking. They were hunting. The first guard flipped the mattress. The second guard checked the toilet. The third guard shined a bright flashlight into every corner of the cell. Marcus felt sweat roll down his back. The clipboard guard spoke first. Check the vent. Marcus's stomach turned. 2 guards dropped to their knees, unfastening the vent screws. Piece by piece. Slow. Careful. Professional. Nothing, one guard muttered. Just dust. The other checked deeper, using a mirror on a stick. Still nothing. Marcus silently thanked the voice in the vent, whoever they were, because if he hadn't checked earlier, that razor would have been found. But then, check behind the bunk, the lead officer ordered. Marcus's heart lurched. The guards moved to the metal frame. Flashlights flicking. Hands feeling along the edges. Metal scraping. One of them reached the underside. Right where Marcus had hidden the taped blade. He tapped the steel frame. Tapped once. Tapped twice. His fingers moved closer. Marcus couldn't breathe. Then, a loud, sharp voice echoed from down the tier. Officer. We got a medical issue. The guards froze. One of them yelled back, what kind of issue? Tier 5. Inmate down. The lead officer cursed. Wrap it up. We're moving. The guard under the bunk pulled his hand away. Marcus nearly collapsed with relief. The officers marched out. The door slammed shut. Marcus let out the breath he didn't know he was holding. His legs shook as he sat on the bunk, elbows on knees, hands over his face. 2 thoughts hit him at once. Someone saved him. Someone else nearly got him destroyed. He didn't know which one was worse. Before he could gather himself, another piece of paper slid under his cell door. Fast. Urgent. Like the sender didn't want to be seen. Marcus grabbed it immediately. Only 4 words. It wasn't Ghost. Marcus's heart jumped. If Ghost didn't plant the blade, if Ghost didn't set him up for the sweep, then who did? He waited, listening. No steps. No voices. No taps in the vent. But then, a new whisper came through the drain pipe below. Marcus, you still alive? It was the same mystery voice from earlier. Marcus whispered back, someone tried to set me up. I know, the voice said. And now you see the truth. Marcus leaned closer. Tell me who it is. The voice paused for a long moment, then answered slowly. It's someone close. Someone you think is helping you. Marcus's blood chilled. Who? He whispered. The voice said. The one who taught you to cook. Marcus's eyes widened. Lorenzo? The voice didn't hesitate. Yes. He's the warden's informant. And tonight, he's planning to turn you in. Marcus felt the room tilt. Lorenzo. The one who taught him everything. The one who warned him about Ghost. The one who gave him the safe seasoning. The one he trusted. The voice whispered. You need to decide fast, chef. Who you're really cooking for. Marcus sat on his bunk, stunned. Because for the first time since all this began, he didn't know who the real enemy was. But he was about to find out. Because at that exact moment, Lorenzo appeared at Marcus's door. And whispered. Tonight, we finish the stew. His smile didn't look friendly. It looked like a trap. Lorenzo's face at the door wasn't the same friendly, calm look he'd shown before. Tonight his smile was tight. Sure. Calculated. Marcus felt his chest tighten. The mystery voice had just told him Lorenzo was the warden's informant. The one who planted the razor. The one who tried to set him up. The one who wanted him caught. And now Lorenzo was whispering through the slot like nothing was wrong. Chef, Lorenzo said softly, we gotta move fast. We don't have much time before count. You ready? Marcus forced his voice to stay steady. We still doing this tonight? Lorenzo nodded. Yeah. But we gotta be careful. Ghost is planning something big. The same thing the voice warned him about. Only Lorenzo wasn't warning him. He was guiding him right into it. Marcus swallowed. What do you want me to do? Lorenzo leaned closer, lowering his voice even more. Use the mix I gave you. Not ghosts. Ghost can't know you're not following his instructions. Not yet. Marcus's mind raced. Lorenzo wasn't afraid of Ghost. He was afraid of being exposed. As the one who was working for the warden. Marcus asked, You sure this is safe? Lorenzo smiled again, too confident. Trust me. I got your back. The exact words an informant would use. Before Marcus could respond, Lorenzo slid a small bundle under the door, a sealed packet wrapped tight in tissue paper. That's the SHU base, Lorenzo said. You gotta start heating it right after lockdown. That's the signal. Signal. That word again. Marcus stared at the packet on his floor, realizing something terrifying. Ghost wanted him to send a signal. The warden wanted him to send a signal. Lorenzo wanted him to send a signal. Everyone wanted him to cook tonight. Not for food, but for control. Someone was manipulating the entire tier. Someone planned to use the smell of steaming stew to kick off their operation. But Marcus didn't know whose plan was the real one. He picked up the packet slowly, buying himself time. What happens after I start cooking? Marcus asked. Lorenzo looked left, then right, making sure the guards weren't close. Then he whispered. You'll hear something in the vents. Don't react. Don't look up. Don't stop cooking. Just keep going. Marcus's heartbeat spiked. Because that lined up exactly with what the mystery vent voice warned him about. Why? Marcus asked quietly. Lorenzo hesitated, something he almost never did. Then he whispered. Because tonight, something is moving through the vents. Marcus felt a heavy chill slide down his spine. What is it? He asked. Lorenzo didn't answer. He just tapped twice on the door. Tap, tap. Then whispered. Just do your part. Let the rest handle itself. And he walked away. Marcus sat on his bunk, staring at the packet in his hand. Everything in his mind clashed like a storm. Lorenzo said cook. Ghost said cook. The voice said don't trust them. Someone planted a razor in his cell. The warden planned a sweep. Dre caused distractions. Someone else caused a medical call to pull the guards away. Too many players. One chef. Then, tap 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 came from the vent again. Marcus moved toward it. The voice returned. You still got the blade? It whispered. Marcus hesitated. Yes. Good. Keep it hidden. Because when you start cooking tonight, something is coming. Marcus swallowed hard. What's coming? The voice answered. Not food. Not a signal. Not Ghost's plan. Marcus leaned even closer. The voice whispered. A full lockdown extraction. Marcus froze. Why would they extract someone tonight? Silence. Then. They're coming for you. Marcus felt every muscle in his body tense. Me? Why? The voice said. You're the distraction. You're the cover. They want you cooking so you don't hear the vent open behind you. Marcus felt his knees weaken. What do I do? He whispered. The voice answered calmly, almost too calmly. You survive. Marcus backed up slowly from the vent, heart pounding. His breathing got shallow. His mind raced. Everything was closing in at once. Ghost, Lorenzo, the warden, the sweep, the hidden blade. He sat on his bunk, staring at the foil packet when suddenly, a shadow passed across his door. And then a soft voice whispered through the slot. You ready, chef? It wasn't Lorenzo. It wasn't Ghost. It was Dre. His voice low. Serious. Different. He leaned close. Listen. Tonight ain't about stew no more. And if you start cooking. Dre paused. You won't see the morning. Marcus's breath stopped. Because Dre wasn't threatening him. He was warning him. And Dre never warned anyone. Marcus stared at Dre through the slot, every muscle in his body tight. Dre wasn't the type to panic, wasn't the type to rush, and definitely wasn't the type to warn anybody. If Dre was whispering like this, then something real was about to happen. What do you mean I won't see the morning? Marcus whispered. Dre leaned closer, his voice barely a breath. You're the fall guy, chef. Ghost set the stage. Lorenzo set the trap. The warden set the sweep. Everybody wants the same thing you caught. You cooking tonight ain't a signal, it's a setup. Marcus felt the room spin. Why me? He whispered. Dre answered immediately. Because you're new. Because you're talented. Because you don't belong to any side yet. Because whoever gets rid of you tonight sends a message to the rest of the tier. Marcus's throat tightened. What message? Dre said. That nobody cooks or moves things without permission. Everything snapped together. The razor blade planted in his vent. The fake stew tests. Ghost's vent operation. Lorenzo's seasoning. The warden's secret sweep. The fake medical emergency. The flood distraction. The mystery vent voice. Every piece connected to one big truth. Marcus was the center of a silent war between Ghost, the warden's informants, and the prison's underground trade system. And tonight, they all planned to use him as the trigger. Marcus whispered, Dre, what do I do? For the first time in the whole nightmare, Dre spoke openly, firm, steady, and final. You survive by doing nothing. What? Don't cook. Don't heat nothing. Don't touch the wires. Let Ghost wait for a signal that never comes. Let Lorenzo watch the stew that never starts. Let the warden's sweep look stupid because nothing happens in your cell. Marcus blinked. But then they'll come after me anyway. Dre shook his head. No. Tonight, everyone's watching everyone else. They're all expecting you to move first. If you don't, they'll blame each other before they blame you. Marcus hesitated, fear still gripping him. What about the razor they planted? Dre smirked. They won't find it. I made sure of that. Marcus froze. You're the one who caused those distractions? The flood. The noise. The timing. The chaos. Dre didn't answer directly. You just said, you ain't alone on this tier. Marcus sat down slowly, his whole body shaking. Thank you. Dre gave a single nod. I ain't saving you, he said. I'm saving the tier. If they take you out, the warden clamps all of us. No food trades. No vent passes. No privileges. Nothing. Marcus understood. Dre wasn't helping him because of friendship. He was helping because Marcus's fall would crush everyone. Locked down in 5 minutes, a guard shouted. Dre stepped back from the door. Do nothing, he repeated. Not a sound. Then he walked away. The night of count. The lights dimmed. The doors locked. The tier fell silent. Marcus sat on his bunk, staring at the foil packet and the fake seasoning mix. This time he didn't assemble the stove. He didn't strip the wires. He didn't touch anything. He just waited. From the vents above he heard movement. Someone expecting something to happen. From the tier below he heard footsteps. People waiting for a smell that didn't come. From the hallway guards whispered. Waiting for the disturbance. Nothing came. No stew smell. No vent signal. No distraction. Ghost didn't get his opening. The warden didn't get his arrest. Lorenzo didn't get his chance to frame him. Instead, the entire operation collapsed. Because Marcus refused to play. The aftermath. Hours later, when the sweep returned, they found nothing. The warden's big raid failed. No contraband. No cooking. No signal. Ghost got angry. Lorenzo got scared. The warden got suspicious. But Marcus? He got something none of them expected. He survived. And over the next few days something changed. Ghost stopped whispering. Lorenzo stopped teaching. The warden stopped targeting him. No one knew who Marcus had chosen. And that made him dangerous. Dre walked past his cell a week later and said quietly, You did good, chef. You stayed neutral. Now nobody owns you. Marcus nodded. I'm done cooking, he said. Dre smirked. Nah, you'll cook again. Just not for them. Marcus raised an eyebrow. For who then? Dre whispered one final line before walking off. For yourself. Life inside Pelican Bay isn't just about meals or lockdowns. It's a world of silent deals, unspoken rules, hidden traps, and dangerous favors. And sometimes, survival means doing absolutely nothing. Marcus didn't win because he fought harder. He didn't win because he cooked better. He won because he learned the truth. Inside a Supermax, cooking is never about food. It's about power. And power is the most dangerous recipe of all.